And hello, party people. Welcome back to another NRW review video. I'm your host with the most, Mr. Daven Estacado, and I'm here with my buddy from Another Nutty, the one and only. Please introduce yourself, sir.
What is up, everybody? This is Rob, the movie guy here, and thank you very much for joining us here today at NRW, because today we've got a review here for you for a film that I was a little iffy about, but we'll get into our thoughts here. This is for the new film that just came out recently here called Scoob. But before we get into our thoughts, let's roll the trailer here real quick.
Hit that trailer.
Scoob, do you realize where we are?
No.
Look around, man. The clean, modern aesthetic, the cool blue color palette. We're in
IKEA.
The Falcon Fury. Did you say IKEA?
Nope, I said Falcon Fury, just like you.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Shaggy and Scooby were taken?
Yeah. This blue light came down from the sky and beamed them up.
I can't breathe.
I'd have to assume that if they were with their friends, they wouldn't have been kidnapped.
Okay, can you skip the emotional punishment?
What was some guy one with Scooby and Shaggy?
I don't know, but I'd like to shake the hand of whoever created this. And then, you know, throw that hand in prison for trying to kill our friends.
Said that we would always be without you, I feel lost.
Hey! This mangy stray's coming with me.
He's not a stray.
Okay, then. What's his name?
His name's Scooby.
Middle name?
Doobie?
Last name?
Doo.
I never knew anybody till I knew you.
Gentlemen, welcome aboard.
Are you?
This isn't about some guy in a rubber mask.
I would have gotten away with this if it weren't for you meddling.
This is about one of us.
Welcome to the Falcon Fury! Hang on. Turn on the lights. Where are my balloons, Dee Dee? When I say Falcon Fury, that's supposed to cue the balloons. Oh, great timing. You might want to buckle up.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo!
Maybe this can lead us to our culprit. Jinkies! Apparently he's been stealing Netflix by using his mother's account.
That is not fair for the rest of us who have to pay for Netflix.
You have to pay for Netflix?
Here we go!
If you want, you can pull over and drop us off here.
We'll walk home.
I guess our new movie is an origin story.
Every hero should have one.
I want The Rock to play me.
Never gonna happen.
All right, so that's the trailer. There's been some mixed feelings about the film. Rob, I told you to watch the film. I told you I liked it. We both grew up watching Scooby-Doo.
Yep.
Both grew up watching the series. This is a new take, a new theatrical release for this film.
Yep.
Kind of a bit of a reboot here. Let's start with what you thought, and we'll go from there. Because you were first hesitant to even do the review with me.
Yeah. Well, so you're right. I was not so hyped on the film. I mean, I was excited that when they announced that they were going to do a new Scooby-Doo film and that it was going to be 3D animated, which I thought was genius, because why go through all the trouble of having a set of actors to play the parts here in a live-action format? We've already had we've had that done twice before, so I was content with their approach on the and taking in the animation side of it here.
Mm-hmm.
I was not very keen on wanting to check it out because as soon as I saw the trailer and what the name of the movie was called, I just thought it just looked kind of dumb. Having seen the film now, I still didn't really enjoy the film as much. Now, we had a conversation before we started the review here about the different takes on this group of characters here throughout the years. I'm more familiar with what I remember watching it through my child here in the old Hanna-Barbera cartoons, and then some of the earlier new takes on these characters here with the introduction of Scrappy-Doo and the whole new cartoon series that came up out of that there. I was familiar in that regard. The new take on the characters here throughout the years, you have been keeping up with that more so than I have. I mean, I was aware of it, but I just wasn't interested in checking it out in that degree there. And I think that really kind of changed my perception on viewing this film here as a result of my lack of investment with keeping up with these characters. thread here, because you mentioned some stuff to me that I didn't really look at in that way, and it kind of just changed my perspective how I actually view the film now because of what you said there. So I want you to actually share your thoughts about what you enjoyed here from me, and of course I'll chime in with what I hated about the film, because there's a lot that I did hate about the film. So I'd rather have you kind of get the ball rolling for us here. On,
All
on
right,
what you
so
thought about it.
I like that they had a bit of a backstory before Scooby and Shaggy and how they met. I like the thoughtless startup for that, and then after that, it just goes into a bit of a montage of how the guys met with the rest of the gang, and kind of a reboot of how the gang got together for the setup of this movie.
Yeah,
and I really enjoyed that montage of kind of like how they recreated the old Scooby-Doo theme and opening sequence.
that
I
was
really
nice.
enjoyed
Yeah,
that was
nice. Yeah,
kind of some Easter eggs there. And that's what I really loved about the film as well. Like, really like is these Easter eggs to other Hanna-Barbera properties in the background.
Yeah,
You had some character sightings. You had some like jokes, kind of in jokes with some of the other franchises in the background. More so at the end of the movie as well in the credits. And the reveal of the main villain, Dick Dastardly. Not the story behind Dick Dastardly, but kind of like, after a while I kind of realized, oh, well, this is what he's going for. But knowing how villain Dick Dastardly is, you kind of put the story together from there. What I really enjoyed was, some of the actors are not the same actors. Like the only original cast member is the voice of Scooby, I believe.
Frank Welker.
Yeah.
He was also the original voice of Fred in the cartoon series as well, too.
And speaking of Fred, I enjoyed Zac Efron's take on Fred. Out of all the cast members, I think a lot of the cast members stuck true to the character, or at least the heart of the character. I think so. Portraying these characters, but that's most of the good stuff I have to say about the movie. It kind of falls apart mid film, because for me, I was expecting a traditional kind of longer episode of a Scooby-Doo, kind of like something happens, something crazy happens, and the gang goes to go solve the mystery behind what happens. But it's not the formula that they stuck with, and they kind of diverted from that.
Well, so I want to get into that too, because I had a lot of problems with the approach they took with the story here, and I understand, like you mentioned before, basically you were expecting an hour and a half episode for the Scooby-Doo story here. And
in a sense, yeah, because like I said, you even pointed out, I've been watching the other movies as well, and then we'll get into a list of those, because I think you told me you haven't seen those as well either.
No. Well, so to go back with what we were talking about here, I understand the approach that they took and not having to follow that same formula, because that's already been done in several other films from what I can imagine, and most of which you're already familiar with, and I am not. I understand that they did that, and I could appreciate the direction they took with that there, because, again, you have an introduction of how Scooby and Shaggy have met from what you saw in the trailer there, and that's kind of the highlight, one of the major highlights of the film with a lot of people. For me personally, I didn't really care for that, because I wasn't interested in the background of of the backstory of how they met. I was happy and content with them just keep, moving on with that they've known each other for a number of years, and we accept that on face value, because clearly they have a strong connection with one another there, and the audience for the most part likes these characters there. So I didn't see that needed to be done there. And then of course you see them get introduced to all the other characters as well too, Freddy, Velma, and Daphne as well too.
And Fred.
It was Fred, right? Well, I mean, again, it was nice to see that there, but I felt like it was a waste of time. So there's a lot of opportunities that you could have used to help move to focus on other things that are more important for the development of these characters, rather than reintroducing everybody to set up a backstory. So that way, when everything falls apart in the film, which you mentioned, like halfway through the point, that's where the film started falling apart. I agree, because then everyone gets separated, and then the film basically becomes like a cat and mouse chase between half of the mystery group trying to find Scooby and Shaggy here, and it didn't really do anything for me. The formula that I saw here was more of what I expected to happen, which was everyone's going to go through some hardship, and they're going to have the major disagreements. There's going to be a fight between the group, and then everyone's going to go on their own separate ways there, and there's going to be further friction between them. And then eventually, at the end of the film, they're going to come together and realize we are a family. We need to work together because that's what family's all about. I knew that was going to happen, and that's exactly what happened here in this film. Not to say that it's not a happy thing to see, but to be told in a much more different way and in a much more compelling way would have been very nice for this film, because quite frankly, I had no connection with virtually every character that I've seen in this film, because it was falling flat for me literally from start to finish. And there was a point when I was watching the movie and I was bored out of my mind, and I was looking at the clock. I was like, how much longer is this film going to be? Because I really want to stop watching. My son was watching the movie too, and he walked away. So I mean, my son is 13 though, so it didn't sit well with him. My niece saw it. My sister was telling me that my niece saw it, and she was obsessed with it. She loves it. My sister saw it. She thought it was funny. My brother-in-law saw it. He thought it was good. And I'm thinking, I don't see that. I don't see the appeal for that. I understand the appreciation, but I didn't see it for me like that.
All right, so let's talk about some of that. All right, you didn't find the movie funny. I mean, there are parts of the movie which genuinely funny.
There were some parts that were funny, but again, it didn't really do anything new for me. The only thing that was really funny in the film, which was where Dick Dastardly is in the movie, and Dick is talking to Scooby-Doo, and Scooby-Doo can't pronounce a lot of words properly, so he kept referring to Dick as Rick, and then that interaction with the two characters I thought was genuinely funny, because he's like, "No, I'm a Dick." That was funny. He's like, "I'm a Dick." "Oh, you're a Rick." Like, "Oh, you're a Rick." I thought that was hilarious. I was like, "Oh, this is really good." And then after that, it just kind of
fell flat.
No, it just didn't. There was nothing that picked up from that really kind of helped elevate the humor for me after that. Yeah, you're right. It fell flat for me. But I guess I'm just trying to say that was really one of the more funnier parts of the film. I mean, there were some nice moments for certain characters here and there, but overall, I mean, dude, the movie sucked. The movie sucked, period. I genuinely did not like the film at all whatsoever.
So let's talk about the cast. Like, were you happy with the cast choices for the voice acting?
Other than Frank Welker as the voice of Scooby, I was happy with him. I did not like Will Arnett as the voice of Shaggy. To me, it's his take on Shaggy sounded like someone who is trying to. It's like when you go to a party. And like, you ever watch Scooby-Doo? Oh yeah, hey, Bob can do Shaggy. Hey, show me your Shaggy. And then they don't do it as well, but they try to do it as close as they can to it. That was like that for me with Will Arnett. It didn't have that Shaggy that I was familiar with here. It just sounded like someone was trying to sound like Shaggy, but because it's Will Arnett, he got the part. So I was a little upset. I was a little disappointed with his take on the character here.
Would you have been happier with Matthew Lillard?
I would have been more content with him. I was genuinely surprised, to be honest with you. I didn't know that Matthew Lillard was voicing Shaggy in some of the other films, other animated films.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And so I was, because he sounded just like Shaggy. He looks like Shaggy in the films as well, too, from the live action films. So I was surprised that he was voicing the character. And I thought, well, it makes sense because he sounds just like the guy. So I appreciated that, and I was genuinely surprised that he wasn't cast. Because when I read the casting prior to the film being in production, there was a disappointment from a lot of fans that why didn't you give Matthew Lillard? And I was like, oh, he was voicing Shaggy this whole time. I had no idea. So I would have appreciated him in the part rather than Will Arnett, because Will Arnett, no offense to him, but he sucked at Shaggy. Zac Efron as Fred. To me, it was basically Zac Efron, the same character you've seen him in Neighbors and in Baywatch. It was that type of comedy that we're accustomed to seeing him in. It was more or less the same thing here, only in the part of Fred. So I didn't appreciate the take on the character Fred in this film here. But you mentioned something to me before about how the character of Fred throughout the years have changed slightly to, I guess, take just a new, different direction for the character here. And I guess because I wasn't familiar, I haven't been caught up with all the new takes on these characters here. I was probably alienated from that, so I didn't feel anything at all that I could really appreciate for this new take on the character here, that I was, again, unfamiliar with all the other takes that they have taken previously. So,
but especially with the new ones, yeah, like a lot of the they kind of meshed a lot of the takes of all the other Scooby Doo's. There's some references there to a pup named Scooby Doo and the newer ones, and then like kind of the seriousness but not seriousness of Scooby Doo Incorporated and some of the newer series, where some of the characters' quirks and personalities are tweaked a little bit. But Fred was kind of known for being that jock type archetype, musclehead kind of guy, but still like traps and mysteries.
Well, and I'm also interested in knowing about what you said before about the new takes on these characters here, because again, I'm alienated from these new takes on these characters here that have been altered slightly as the years have gone by. I mean, from what you saw in this film and what you've seen previously in the new shows and the later films that have been coming out as of late, I mean, is that consistent with those changes that have been made leading up to this film here as far as the interpretation of these characters?
Some have changed a little bit. Some have they either dumbed down Fred really a lot, or
that's what they did in this film to me. They really dumbed him down.
They dumbed down a little bit, or they kind of like keep him as kind of like level-headed, but still kind of very not as smart as, say, Velma is kind of the brains of the operation and more of the techie investigator person of the group. So you can see like they kind of tweaked their personalities, kind of turned it up a little bit to 11.
So I want to get into something here too, because again, you brought up something in the conversation before about how there's these new takes on all these characters, and one of them being Blue Falcon, and of course you've got Captain Caveman, and so all these other characters in the Hanna-Barbera universe, because they basically try to do like this whole. They're cramming all these Hanna-Barbera characters into this one film to introduce them to eventually set up a setup franchise here for all these other characters here that they want to include in this universe, if you will. Did you feel that they just overstuffed some of these characters here? Because I felt like it was just basically a commercial for these new guys.
Yeah, I felt like it was a little compressed for the time that they had. Like, had they kind of stretched out a little bit, maybe a little bit of a longer run time, maybe it would have worked. But cramming all that into, it made sense for the story's sake, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because they were kind of globe-trotting from one place to another to find these artifacts. So, like, look, we get to a bit of the plot here, where, like, you find out that Dick Dastardly is collecting these artifacts. For his own nefarious needs. You think at the end of the movie, you think it's for a good cause, but he's just Dick Dastardly.
Yeah.
But at the end of the film, they're kind of like going from one place to another to collect them, and it's like a race in time to collect them. Eventually, they get to a place where it's like an island that is like prehistoric. And
out in Peru, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken.
And Captain Caveman is there. And they run to Captain Caveman, which was kind of played by which you were not happy about.
No, I hated that. I remember Captain Caveman as a kid, and I liked the character. I wasn't a fan of him like that, but I did like the character. And it's Tracy Morgan voicing this character here. I did not like it at all. I mean, he said some funny things. I'll give him that for in this part here, but they've. A lot of these characters that I remember here, they basically changed. They did a whole 360 on them and given them a whole new set of personalities here, and not sticking with the original, characteristic of these characters here that at least some of the old school guys old school audience are familiar with here. But again, you introducing to a new set of audience here, I can understand that. Captain Caveman being this whole grunting like, "Hey, I'm a Captain Caveman." I understand that with kids, maybe it won't translate well today. So you want to give them a little more a cohesive type of a pattern when he talks to people, and you want to make it funny. I get that, but maybe I'm just being biased, and I just prefer the old school way, and I'd rather keep it that way.
Speaking about that, we'll talk about the dynamics that changed. It's like in the new movie, you get to reveal who the new Blue Falcon is. It's not the original Blue Falcon that we grew up with, but it's the son of the Blue Falcon, played by Mark Wahlberg, who I think who actually I think did a good job playing the character.
He was funny.
He was, playing this kind of like he's living up into his dad's shadow, trying to rebrand himself into this character of Blue Falcon with the help of Dynamite, who is a completely different personality that we grew up with, which I think works for the movie.
I guess, yeah. I think you're right. Mark Wahlberg, I was surprised that he was cast in the film, and I had forgotten about the character Blue Falcon. As far as from the old days, I was familiar with him growing up, but it's been such a long time since I've seen anything to do with Blue Falcon. It just kind of took me a while to regain that memory back. But Mark Wahlberg in this part, I liked him, but I didn't like him in the part. I actually found a lot more negatives about his take on the character that I did not like at all whatsoever. Yes, it is Blue Falcon and it's his son. Nice little twist, but didn't do anything for me. Look, I told you this earlier, but I genuinely did not like the film at all whatsoever. And I'm a big Mark Wahlberg. Like, I genuinely love most of his work. And I really think he's a good actor. So I was excited for him to do a voice acting part for, I think it's the first time. I didn't feel anything at all for this character. I found it kind of somewhat boring at times and just very repetitive for me. I would rather watch The Happening over this film. And that's giving you a perspective like how I really felt about the film, because the way that they took this film in all these different directions and cramming in all these different characters here, and they were trying to make a story to fit this whole universe for a franchise to start here. It didn't do it for me, and I would rather have focused more on the characters of Scooby-Doo and the gang than having to shove all these different characters in our faces here and then alter them along the way. I would rather have them do their own separate story here, or slowly introduce the characters as a necessity for the plot, but not just to cram Dick Dastardly, Captain Caveman, Blue Falcon, and all these other characters there. It just seems like a big orgy of a mess of characters that just didn't really do anything for me. It worked well for some people, but maybe I'm just too biased because I'm looking at it from how I grew up as a kid watching these characters, and I didn't appreciate any of the changes that were made with this new take on the characters here. I'm sorry, man, but I'm bitching and moaning this whole time because I really didn't like the film. I appreciated what they tried to do, but I didn't appreciate the result of what they did do. So,
and I agree. Some things did fall apart. Like, I do agree. There was a cramming of too many characters. The plot was a little I felt like could have gone with. I enjoyed the previous movies. I compared it to the previous movies I watched and the previous recent couple of shows. Being the Scooby-Doo and Zombie Island being one of my favorites, Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost,
which I'm going to check out, by the way, because I'm curious to see your take on those films and how you appreciate it, how you love the film. Maybe that might change my perspective on how this new interpretation of these characters being told in this format here. That might alter it. I'm hoping that may be the case here, but given with what I saw at the overall direction of the story, I hated it.
And I think we have to take a look at it that way too. Like, this is pretty much an Elseworld story of Scooby-Doo and the gang, like a whole different universe that's being rebooted for this franchise that they're trying to start off with, this Hanna-Barbera franchise, which you get a little bit more at the end of the movie during the credit sequences. You see shots of Blue
I didn't
Falcon.
even see that.
You see Blue Falcon kind of like teaming up with Jabberjaw and Captain Caveman and Adam Ant and all these other old characters. Even the purple grape ape comes and makes like a reference. Like, it's all stuff that I grew up watching on old school Cartoon Network. Coming together. And I kind of wish they kind of actually had a whole, instead of using this as a kind of a setup, like you said, use different movies to kind of set it up. Overall, I enjoyed the movie as a fan of the franchise. I enjoyed it. There were some things I felt they could have done differently with the story. There was some action, there was some comedy, and I think you're kind of like the perfect person. Like, if you're not a fan of the franchise, if you're not like a younger kid as well, you're probably not going to like the movie. But I still say check it out to see where this is headed. And if not, do what Rob is doing and check out the older movies before you watch this movie. Go watch the other ones, because those actually have that mystery plot with them. This somewhat had a mystery, but it kind of more revolved around Scooby and this
As
magic
the key, right? We forgot to mention that here too, because Scooby Doo is the key. Apparently, he's a descendant of Alexander the Great's old dog, and I was like, "Are you seriously going to do that with Scooby Doo?" Like, look, man, I really didn't like that at all. I just hated that. I was like, "You're really taking the cheap route to tell the story here." Scooby Doo and Scrappy, excuse me, Shaggy, they're really important characters. I would have loved for them to use them in a different light rather than having some sort of like a cheap shot of a way for them to use the character as an important value for the story here. But they're important enough as it is already. There's different ways you can do that without having to hack up some story to create this whole plot against humanity type of scenario. I don't think it was necessary, and to be honest with you, it was too convoluted for me. By the time I got to the end of the film, the payoff wasn't even that great, and there was no proper connection. Like, oh, I felt sad and I felt happy at the end. I didn't get any of that whatsoever. So, I mean, obviously for you is a little different in that perspective there, but I mean, I don't know. Did you feel that same way about the whole Scooby Doo plot being a descendant of Alexander the Great's dog?
I thought it was funny. I was like, really? That's kind of really over the top and ridiculous. But, I saw something coming. It was either going to be aliens or something. I was not expecting, to be like, Cerberus himself coming out, which even then at the action sequences, they were fun to watch. Especially Fred's interaction and loss of the Mystery Machine was kind of funny to see. And then culminating to like the reopening of Mystery Inc. at the end of the movie, kind of allowing this follow-up for sequels, so to speak.
Yeah, well, I don't have anything else I can offer that here because I've already said my piece here, but I am going to check out some of the other films that you did mention here because I think looking at it from that perspective of how things have changed throughout the years, and you're certainly getting a different point of view of how they've taken the direction of these characters here for whatever adventures they're going to be going into. I mean, the story of Scooby-Doo is not that difficult. It's just always some sort of weird plot, and they got to solve the mystery. That's the general consensus of what each story is always about here, and it's not difficult to do. Like I said, they made this too convoluted here, but
you could change the formula, play with the formula.
Well, they did that. Yeah, they did that here, but they just made, like I said, it's basically a giant commercial for, hey, listen, we're going to have a universe set up here with all these other guys here, and you love Blue Falcon, you like Captain Caveman? Well, don't worry, we got Mark Wahlberg and Tracy Morgan coming back for another film that we're going to be doing down the line. Let's hope you guys, it just screamed at me as being just like a
money grab. Okay.
I mean, every film's going to be a money grab regardless. That's not going to change. But I'm just saying that this was a clear indication that they're putting all their eggs in one basket. Literally, in this film, they put everything in one film in hopes that it would generate an interest for our upcoming franchise. So rather than focusing on the more important aspects of these characters here and then tell the story through a much more, I guess, intimate setting there, that would be the best way to go about it. I mean, when you look at like films like Pixar, you're not seeing Toy Story and of course what's Brave or Monsters Inc. all cramming into one universe. They're all their own separate stories, and they focus on that.
Unless you play Kingdom Hearts, but
Well, I mean, that's a whole different ball game there on its own, and it's a necessary thing to do because that fits for that type of medium there. But when you try to cram in a lot of things at once to purposely set up a franchise, and you want to make that a commercial for everyone to be on the lookout for, to see the potential of films that are going to be coming down the pipeline here, it's distracting for me. I mean, one of the biggest examples of that is the Dark Universe. They just try to they cast all these actors for these films that haven't even worked on yet, and then it failed miserably. And I'm not to say that's going to happen here, but it's definitely kind of the same approach that they're doing this year.
That was going to be my next one. Do you think it looks like it's doing pretty well. It looks like it's gotten a lot of reviews. Some of them kind of on your take. They changed a lot of the characters, but it seems like it's doing pretty well financially so far.
I have no idea.
I would recommend it. I mean, if you're a fan of the franchise, if you like Scooby-Doo, I say go watch the movie. Watch it, see what you think. If you're excited for the upcoming, other movie franchises coming out, like I said, wait until the end of the film. You'll see a little bit more into that. But I mean, a lot of that, I enjoyed the movie. There were some, things that could have been done differently, I think, story wise. But overall, it was a fun comedy. Some action, lots of jokes that are going to go over kids' heads throughout the movie. I kind of feel I like that they kept some of that and weird cameos from celebrities for some reason, which that's the main thing I didn't like, was the fact that the celebrity guest was the reason why the gang split up, which I think had been better if they had actually been kidnapped and dealt with in that way to actually been separated. Would have probably been better. But it is what it is. Yeah. So what's your final thoughts here, Rob?
This film isn't even worth it. It's not even worth a shot to drink to. It's like, personally for me, it's a waste of time. It's a wasted opportunity for me. And although your take on how the evolution of these characters throughout the years have changed to some degree, that certainly changed my perspective on how to look at these characters differently in this film here. But the overall plot itself and the direction of as far as how they were taken down these paths here, I didn't appreciate it at all. So normally I would pick this my glass up here because it is a Scooby-Doo themed cup here, but in this particular case, I wouldn't raise my glass for this film at all whatsoever. I would just honestly say, if you're gonna watch it, don't walk in with no expectations, because you're probably gonna be disappointed. If you love it, more power to you. I am glad you enjoyed it.
I'll at least say give it a shot. Give it a shot. See what you think. If you enjoy the franchise, if you enjoy the other Scooby-Doo, I know that a couple of fans out there did not enjoy the second to last Scooby-Doo release, but a couple of new ones are coming out down the pipeline, and I hope that this does well enough to see what else that they could come down the line. But I say give it a shot. But that's my take. At least give it a shot.
Yeah, not for me.
All right. Well, what did you guys think? If you guys seen the movie, let us know. Related to comics down below. Did you agree with Rob? Did you hate the movie too? Did you think it was a waste of time? Do you even like Scooby-Doo? What are your favorite Scooby-Doo movies? List them down below. Let us know what Rob needs to watch. Because I told him he should watch at least Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghosts. Those are the main ones that I like out of the newer films. Did you guys enjoy the Scooby-Doo WWE collab? Should he watch those? Let us know in the comments below.
The one with John Cena on the cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And if not, let us else what else you guys want us to watch. It's not the only thing that we cover. We cover everything from movies, TV, television, Hulu, comic books, video games, and more here on the channel. And Rob, where can they find us?
Well, you can find New Release Wednesdays on social media here. So we have a Facebook page, simply New Release Wednesday, and also on Instagram, New Release Wednesdays, on Twitter, the NRW, and you can follow me on social media as well too. On Facebook, simply Rob the Movie Guy, and on Twitter it's Rob Medina 0585. On Instagram it's Rob_Medina 0585, and you can follow my buddy from Another Nutty on the left hand side. Where can they follow you, sir?
You can follow me on my Twitter and on my Instagram at Daven is Disaster. You can follow me on my full name on my Facebook on Daven A. Estacado. And just follow me here on NRW with the rest of the NRW gang. That being said, this is probably the first video that we actually kind of disagreed, besides our top 10 on something. But that goes to show that, not everybody has the same taste and agree, but we're still kind of
some have better taste.
Okay. I love doing these things, and I hope you guys at home do too. Yeah. Hit that like, subscribe button, and let us know, what else you guys will like. Just leave a comment down below. And until next time, I think we have a couple of more videos stuff coming down the pipeline here, buddy.
Yep, we do. So we have some more stuff coming down the line here, and we'll make sure that you guys are aware of that. So make sure you follow us on our social media accounts here, and like he said, subscribe and hit the notification button there, and share the videos out there too. That would help us out a great deal. And if you spread the gospel that is New Release Wednesday here, that would help us out. So otherwise, you guys be safe out there. Enjoy the rest of your day here, and cheers.
Cheers.